Hi, I'm Kushuful Yun. This teacher guide is about the Mindset Learn series of lessons on examining film. These lessons are suitable for learners in the FET band. You may choose to use these lessons with grade 10, 11 or 12 learners depending on the competence of your learners and the purpose for which you are choosing the lessons. In this guide, we tell you what the series of lessons is about and how it links to the curriculum. We also discuss ideas for using the lessons with your learners. You may want to make notes, so have a paper and pencil ready. This series aims to introduce learners to films as texts. We cover basic filmmaking techniques and explain how these techniques help to create meaning. There are 8 lessons. 1. Making a film. 2. Dialogue and soundtrack. 3. Camera shots. 4. More camera shots. 5. Camera angles. 6. Camera movements. 7. Focus and lighting. And 8. Editing a film. The lessons in this series all address learning outcomes to reading and viewing. This will assist learners in achieving a range of assessment standards within this outcome, including being able to recognize the use of visual, audio, and audio-visual techniques such as the use of color, dialogue, music, sound, lighting, editing, framing, styles of shots, camera techniques, foregrounding, and backgrounding. The learning outcome and assessment standards for each lesson are stated at the beginning of each video lesson in the series. In addition, lesson outcomes linked to these are also given in each lesson. In order to illustrate filmmaking techniques, we show a range of clips taken from short films produced for the New Direction series. This eminent initiative encourages promising young filmmakers to write, produce, direct film, and edit short films. Showing clips of films enables learners to see camera angles, shots, and editing techniques being used in a way that they could not if they were studying this from a textbook. In addition to illustrating the film techniques, we then discuss how these techniques have been used to create mood and atmosphere or introduce us to characters. These discussions will help learners to become more familiar with the terminology and more comfortable using it to discuss films. Once your learners are familiar with basic visual literacy, we would encourage you to show your learners our next series called Film Study Example, in which 2 short films are analyzed in detail. If possible, you'd find it useful to watch the videos by yourself before you show them to your learners. This will enable you to make notes of the places to stop the video and ask questions or have a discussion. It will also allow you to see when and how you could best incorporate the video lessons into your learning program. You could also think of activities you could do with your learners before or after watching the videos. To get learners interested in these lessons and to keep them involved, you will find it useful to get them to do the tasks and activities presented in the lesson. These tasks are linked to the learning outcomes given in the lessons and to at least one assessment standard in the curriculum policy. Completing the tasks will give both you and your learners evidence of how well they've achieved the lesson outcomes. The tasks can also be used as part of a learner's record of progress towards the assessment standards for each grade. In the case of this series of lessons, you can also apply the techniques for studying a film that you've learnt about in this lesson to studying any film. Also, many of the camera shots and angles which we cover in this lesson would also apply to photographs such as those used in advertisements, and thus they develop general visual literacy skills. Now let's have a more detailed look at the lessons in the series and how you can use them in your classroom. In this lesson, we cover the process of making a film and we learn about the people involved in filmmaking. Various professional filmmakers, including a director and a scriptwriter, are interviewed. This will expose learners to the range of occupations that are available in the film and television industry. To relate these lessons to the film you are studying, you may want learners to examine the credit roll to see how many people were involved in creating your set film and what their roles were. In this lesson, we discuss the different types of dialogue you get in a film and the various components of the soundtrack.
I miss you, honey.
Now look at this one. This one looks good.
To extend and reinforce this lesson, you may want to get learners to create their own radio advertisement that contains examples of sound effects, music, voiceovers, and dialogue. In the next lessons, we go through basic camera shots and angles. Definitions and examples of different camera shots and angles are given, and we discuss the effects that these have created. The same shots and angles mentioned in these lessons are also used in photography. As an activity, encourage your learners to find examples of different types of shots and camera angles used in photographs in magazines, advertisements, and the newspaper. These can be stuck on paper and displayed on your classroom walls as a reinforcement of the terminology. Learners can also explain to their peers why they think different shots and angles were used in each case. The next lessons in this series cover camera movements, focus, and lighting. In the lessons, the various techniques are explained and some examples are given. However, it would be useful for learners to see more examples and to practice commenting on how the effects that have been used help to create meaning. To provide opportunities to discuss film techniques, record extracts of films to show to learners. This will enable them to see how different lighting, for example, is used in thriller or horror films compared to comedies. In the final lesson in this series, we talk about editing a film. Here we discuss and show examples of editing techniques such as montages, cuts, and dissolves. To give learners practice in identifying and describing editing techniques, record a soap opera or a sitcom that they are familiar with and get them to comment on the editing techniques that have been used. We hope that you will enjoy using these lessons to introduce your learners to film study. If you would like more information about using these lessons or lesson notes for each lesson, please refer to our website www.mindset.co.za. From me, Kushu, goodbye.